Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at a Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One hour down, 2 hours to go. It's how we do it on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159, right here on the early line. Dubs Anderson, Donnie Rightside, the hottest topics. You know we have you covered. Did a lot of Major League Baseball in hour number 1, setting the scene for game number 5 in tonight's World Series action. We'll handicap that a little bit later in the show. The NFL topics just continue to fly. It's always fun, too, because you're like, whoa, an hour's already done. We got 2 hours to go. That's going to fly by as well, Dubsy. We're feeling the heat this morning.
I'm feeling fantastic. We had the Sports Equinox to start the week on Monday. I went 0 for 4 playing East Coast teams, Donnie. So that's how my week started out. But now we're halfway through, not even halfway through the bankroll. So we're building a little momentum. Maybe the Yankees are following suit after picking up Game 4. We're rocking, we're rolling, we're having a good time. And I tell you what, October's going to be one of the best months of sports, bar none. It's certainly in the top 10.
Exactly. And by the way, one more day to go. Now, you want to get off topic a little bit, Dubs, because I only get to talk to you on Wednesdays here on the show. Today's the 30th, tomorrow's the 31st. Why is that important? Tomorrow is Halloween here, which is always an exciting time. But I want to ask you about the day before. In New Jersey, growing up as a kid, we had a thing called Mischief Night the day before. Soap up some cars, maybe TP some houses out there, shaving cream, eggs. Did you ever go through any of that in your childhood? Did you have any, experiences on a Mischief Night, or is this foreign to you at this point?
No, it's a little foreign, and Halloween's only become a bit of a thing in Australia the last 5-6 years. I've been over in the States for far too long, but certainly used to dabble with the TP, used to love a good egg session. Nothing better than just getting a couple eggs out the side of the old Mitsubishi 182. So always up for a good time. But Donnie, the selection drama I have is I've got 2 outfits for the big Halloween party that I cannot decide on one. And I need your guidance on this one. One Scotty Scheffler in the orange overalls, post 6 under par in that second round. Yeah. But then I've got Joe Burrow. I'm keeping it white and orange theme in the all white unis for the Bengals. But I've also got the peroxide hair dye ready to rock and roll. Right. So maybe next Wednesday I've got the blonde tips. So I'm looking like Joey Burrow in the icy white for Cincy. What do you think? Is that the play, Donnie?
That should be the play. Yeah, I mean, you got to, you're a golf guy. You got to stick to the roots there. Scotty Scheffler, maybe like the back pocket there is extra thick with extra cash rolling out there with all the money that he won this season. Now, on Halloween for me, Dubsy, I got to work the Thursday night game, which is fine. We'll have a good time. We'll enjoy that here. But the wife actually has a office party today going dressed as a taco, Dubsy. What do you think about that?
I like it. Are we talking like Taco Bell tacos? Are
Taco
we
Bell.
talking corner shop? Okay.
No. My wife is going as a taco tonight. But by the way, Doug, that's a great question you have because it doesn't look like a Chipotle taco. It does look like a Taco Bell taco. So very astute of you there, running to the border and the bell right there. I like that.
Donnie, the concern for me is that, I think it's great. We should all get dressed up. We're all going to have a bit of fun. You're going to have a bit of fun here on the Grid covering Thursday Night Football. But for me, Donnie, I've got the old chicken legs, the pins. So that's my concern, trying to wear the white tights around, like the footballers do. I think there could be a lot of, landscape in between there. So that's going to be the tough assignment for me for Thursday, trying to lock down this outfit. But certainly going to be packing maybe a couple of eggs, TP. The kids get into it, Donnie. It's a lot of confectionery, a lot of lollies out here on the West Coast. But I'm certainly going to have a couple of bets ready to rock and roll. That'll be the best part. Thursday Night Football, dressed up like a complete bozo.
I obviously have worked multiple times on Halloween. I don't think we've ever dressed up here as the network. I don't know if it's allowed at this point.
Got to do it.
You know what I mean? Do we have to dress up and then just say, maybe you paint your face and put some makeup on, but you still have to wear the suit and the jacket at that point? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit off. Maybe Ben will come in tomorrow. By the way, where do you think Ben would come dressed up here to the network on Halloween? What would he be?
It'd have to be Big Ten related, maybe one of the star college quarterbacks. I'm trying to think. I mean, Benny's got that sort of Ben Affleck swagger to him, well chiseled, well spoken. He's in great shape. He's got that presence. Maybe Batman, a little Bruce Wayne. I could see Bruce Wayne vibes coming in there for Benny Stevens. The biggest question mark I had, Donnie, is who does Joe Lisi go as? Or does he go as himself? Apparently they're just stopping him on the streets of New York, asking for photos, give us a signed headshot. What do you do with the hair? What do you do with the lettuce up on top? So Jackpot Joe Lisi has a Bitcoin. Okay, I could get behind that.
Imagine doing a show tomorrow night with Joe Lisi as a Bitcoin. But by the way, with on Halloween with Ben Stevens, maybe Ron Burgundy, but isn't he more Ron Burgundy every day, some people would say here on the network at this point. So a lot of options that you can have. But you know what other options we have, Dubsy? It is Halloween. It's try to win some money. Tomorrow there is a Thursday night football game. But before we get there, let's reset the odds market at the FanDuel Sportsbook of who do you think can actually win the Super Bowl? Is it a surprise? Ding, ding, ding. It's the Chiefs at a plus 450 price, followed by the Ravens at plus 650. Two AFC teams there at the top of the leaderboard, followed by the Detroit Lions, the San Francisco 49ers at plus 650, plus 750. You have the Bills at plus 850. They're the teams inside of 10-1 right now. So if you look at those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, Dubsy, who would you go with right now who deserves, in your mind, to be the leader in the clubhouse?
I think the Kansas City Chiefs do, and we hate seeing a front runner. I mean, undefeated. They're not getting it done in a wow style on Sundays. Patrick Mahomes is not stuffing the stat sheet or the box score, but they continue to chalk up those W's, 7-0 for where we currently sit. And we just know they've got that championship DNA, that championship caliber experience. They're looking for a third straight Lombardi. You can make the argument it doesn't get any easier. Every week is the Super Bowl for whoever the Chiefs are going up against, but somehow they just find a way to chalk up these gritty, ugly victories week in, week out. So I love the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be there in the mix. The Ravens have made a fantastic addition to their offense in the last 24 hours. I think they've got the best roster. Lamar Jackson does concern me at times, especially under those high-pressure situations. I think the price for me, Donnie, and I do think the odds board is spot on. The top 5 should be the top 5. I don't see an outlier outside of the top 5 betting choices right now who's got the credentials to be a Super Bowl contender once it's all said and done. But the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff is having a remarkable season. I love what Dan Campbell has done. I think it was a big learning experience for them last year. And if you're taking a look at the NFC, obviously the Packers are going to need Jordan Love at full health to make a bit of a tilt. I don't think the Commanders are really going to be there once it's said and done, but they've been playing some fantastic football. And, teams like the Vikings, the Eagles, I've got question marks on. So I think at the NFC, the price place for me is I like what I've seen from the Detroit Lions. I think they're built for the big stage, and I think they could take another step forward from what we saw last season, and that puts them right in the thick of it.
And we take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and rightfully so, they are the favorite, because you have to understand one thing. Do I think they're the most talented team in the NFL? No, I don't. But they still have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and they're undefeated right now, which means, Dubsy, there's a really good chance they're going to be the number one overall seed in the AFC, which means every home game in the playoffs is going to be at Arrowhead Stadium. You take a look at the next couple games. The Buccaneers come in incredibly injured. They should win that game. They'll get a tough push against the Broncos, but it's at home. At the Bills will be a tough game. But then you see the Panthers and the Raiders. They are going to stack victories up here. So even if you're looking and saying, like, I don't buy into it, I don't think they're the best team right now, the fact of the matter is they're probably going to be the best team at the end, because why? It's hard to beat the Kansas City Chiefs anywhere, let alone beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home. If we get outside of that 10-1 year, it's the Eagles, the Packers, the Texans, the Vikings, the Commanders, and the Falcons. Anybody outside that you figure can get a good look, because the Eagles starting to come on strong. I've always been a proponent here of the Green Bay Packers. The Texans, with that Diggs injury, a little bit down on them. Not really buying into the Vikings, but I do think viable options here could come from the Eagles and the Packers at a decent price in the NFC, Dubs.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fade for me the last couple of weeks towards the Packers. The Eagles absolutely flying high. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's an absolutely tremendous quarterback. The run game, Saquon Barkley, he's having a career-best season. And the wide receiver duo, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, yeah, not a bad 1-2 punch to have. So if the Eagles can build a bit of momentum, Nick Sirianni got them working in the right direction, they're going to be a tough out.
Let's put the focus on the AFC. Chiefs, who can knock them off? Find out next, right here on the Early Line.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallize Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Let's talk AFC. Some of the best teams in the NFL do reside in the AFC, and we just talked about it. The Super Bowl odds, 1 and 2. It's the Chiefs and the Ravens. So no surprise here, Dubs. 1 and 2 in the AFC on the FanDuel Sportsbook does have the Chiefs at a plus 200 price and the Ravens at a plus 330 price. Let's start there, 1 and 2. Now, obviously, I'm not going to ask you the question, do we think it's deserving that the Chiefs are the favorite? Of course it is. They're undefeated. They have a couple-game lead over the Ravens and or the Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans. You get the point here. But let me ask you this question. If we lined up in a game tomorrow, Chiefs and the Ravens for all the marbles, Dubsy, where would your money be going?
If it's tomorrow, does that count as regular season, or are we counting this as a playoff game with that extra juice, everything on the line? Because if it's the latter, Donnie, neutral site, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They've proven time and time again they're primed up for the big spot. Not to say that there's question marks on the Baltimore Ravens, but I guess I have hesitations on Lamar Jackson in a big spot. He has failed to get the job done, and obviously going against a formidable duo tandem and Andy Reid, Spags, Patty Mahomes, I guess the trifecta of some of the best minds in football. They just find a way to get it done. They will go against your strengths and turn them into weaknesses. So right now, if everything was on the line, I'd have to say it's the Kansas City Chiefs. What would it take for me to sway that opinion? I'd have to be wrong. I'd have to be proven, that I was misreading Lamar Jackson in a prime spot. So until I see that, I cannot back with confidence. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has a good chance of making it 3 on the trot.
I love the AFC. I mean, I do, Dubsy. You know me. I am a tried and true Philadelphia Eagles fan all the way down. So sometimes I say in the NFC, I do like a team, which we're going to get to in the next segment. But if I'm looking here, the Chiefs, obviously a great football team. The Baltimore Ravens, I bet them last year to win the Super Bowl and was so disappointed because I thought I had easy money in my back pocket after they throttled the 49ers on Christmas. And then a couple days later, it's like, hey, here we go. Only to find out in the AFC Championship game, they just couldn't beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But I love two teams in the AFC. It's the Buffalo Bills and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we'll start with the Buffalo Bills. I think they have every component they need to win a Super Bowl. A quarterback that's playing unbelievably great football. Now the MVP finalist in the leaderboard right now over Lamar Jackson. That's Josh Allen. They have wide receivers. They get Amari Cooper. You have a running back in Cook that looks like he's taking the next step. A defensive head coach. I love him at plus 420 price. And then you know me with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sitting at 14-1 on the Russ bandwagon, playing good football heading into their bye. So if we remove the Chiefs and the Ravens, for me, it's the Bills and the Steelers, Dubsy. Who is it for you behind the Chiefs and the Ravens in the AFC?
I think it'd be the Buffalo Bills. Houston Texans have shown that they're going to be a tough out, strong, formidable, but I don't think that that news coming across the last 24 is going to help their chances. No Stephon Diggs, but love the addition of Cooper for the Buffalo Bills. They've got the run game. They can set the table, fear the run, and then get it downfield. They don't have that star standout one, but I think that actually helps their offense in a wacky way. There's no pressure on Josh Allen to just funnel that offense through one look. They're slicing it in different ways, and I think he's putting together an MVP caliber season. I think Josh Allen has been that good. If the Bills are going to continue to be one of the big threats in the AFC, it's going to be in big part thanks to Josh Allen, who's primed for a big spot. He's one of the best athletes, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So outside of the big threats, I think it's Buffalo. It's the Bills who hold a bit of value. Look, Donnie, in terms of the Steelers coming out of the North, I haven't been big on their chances, but in the last 10, 15 seconds, you got me thinking, saying, there's a lot of check marks that we go through to see if a team can be a genuine Super Bowl contender, and they're built for tough, gritty football on both sides of the ball. You'd obviously be banking on Russell Wilson to, come up with close to career best form, but he really doesn't have to do anything amazing. He's just going to be that facilitator. They can lean on that run game, and it's always going to be that arm wrestle. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Donnie, could be worth a bit of a fly there, but outside of the top two choices, I love Buffalo, I love Josh Allen, and I just think the ceiling is a little higher. But until today, until right now, wasn't thinking of the Steelers like this.
Yeah, the Steelers are interesting too because, again, Justin Fields has a little hamstring issue right now. Hopefully that gets shored up, but sometimes I understand, like, starting quarterbacks don't want to get interrupted on the field. Like Tom Brady for the Patriots, even if you had a great Taysom Hill-type player behind him, he's not coming off the field on the 3-yard line. But I do think there is a purpose for the Steelers that Justin Fields you can use to make you an even better football team. That's why I'm really intrigued about the Steelers. And, of course, with that devastating pass rush that they have, they can certainly wreck offensive game plans. But let's get to some of the deep cuts here. And the team I always have an issue with, it seems like, Dubsy, is the Bengals. They sit at 21-1 in the AFC. I don't think they're winning the AFC. And every time I want to write their obituary, I say to myself, ooh, they're under 500. They're taking on losses, but they're still eligible with a chance to get that 7th wild card seed in the AFC because there's a lot of bad football teams outside of the top 5, which is the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans, and Steelers. Who can we look at here? Is it the Bengals? Is it the Chargers? Is it the Colts? How about the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa? Who is it in your mind?
I think we're sitting back at this point in the season, Donnie, and trying to excuse some of the records. But as we've heard time and time again, you are what your record tells us you are. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals have been one of the most underwhelming teams at this point in the season. I'd put them right next door to the Miami Dolphins, right next door to the New York Jets. And at this point, I just can't see a way in which Joe Burrow and Cincy turn this thing around. I think the Chargers, it was always going to be a matter of the long game. What about the Denver Broncos? I know, that they sort of started a little sluggish. There's question marks on how high that ceiling really is, but they've got 5 wins. They're starting to build momentum. Bo Nix has only looked stronger and stronger the further this season goes. They're well coached on the defensive side. Pat Surtain's an absolute superstar. They're not allowing a lot of points, so I think they could be a very tough out. And if they can continue to chalk up the W's, maybe watch out for the Denver Broncos to be there. I feel like very similar DNA to Pittsburgh Steelers. Not a team that you want to get in that rock fight with. They're going to drag you down to their level, but I think that is longevity and it's a sustainable way to play the way this season is shaking out, because a lot of these other heavy hitters have not shown up. They cannot support the way in which they want to play football. Steelers can, Denver Broncos can, and I think there's still plenty of prices here in the AFC to make a bit of a tilt towards the postseason.
How about the New York Jets?
Stop.
Jets. 66, not even to win the Super Bowl, Dubs. 60-1 to win the AFC. I'm telling you right now, you won't be with me tomorrow here on the show, Dubsy. Jets, knock off the Texans on their way to a run. This is what New York wanted to hear. The Yankees might go down, but the Jets could have your back. Maybe not necessarily. NFC's next, right here, early line. Don't go anywhere.
That kid on the 2-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Having a lot of fun setting up the NFC and the AFC. Who's going to win those conferences here? It does seem to be wide open in the AFC outside of those first two teams. Can some teams make those charges? And again, the thing that we love is it's not a 3-game set. It's not a 5-game set. It's not a 7-game set. Once you get to the playoff, Stubbs, it's one and done. You either play good football or you're being sent home. Let's focus here on the NFC here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Leader in the clubhouse right now on that odds board, it's the Detroit Lions, my favorite team in the NFC right now. Followed by the San Francisco 49ers, which the odds market just can't quit those guys. The Eagles at a 6-1 price. The Packers 7-1. The Vikings at plus 950. That rounds out every team at 10-1 or less. So I always ask this question to start, Dubsy. The Lions in the leadership spot here at plus 320. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought they were fantastic last year. They could just show us a bit more improvement. They're going to be one of the best teams in football. And yes, at this point, they absolutely are. Just coming up with the one loss. Jared Goff has been playing some fantastic, efficient football. They've got the run game with Montgomery and Gibbs to lean on. They've got one of the best wide receivers in the business, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got Timmy Patrick, who's putting up some decent numbers since coming across. Obviously, Hutchinson, the big fella, that's a massive loss on the other side of the ball. But they're well coached. I like their DNA. They can get it done with the run game, but they can split you downfield and get it vertical as well. They can put up points in bunches, and it seems to be a team of good locker room guys. You know, not such a team of good players, but it really is a good team. And for me, that spells that they're absolutely well coached. So at 6-1 for the season, I certainly think this is the team out of the conference to be back in. And I think this is a team that wouldn't take a backward step in going against, a Baltimore, Kansas City Chiefs. I think they can step up and get it done. They're playing with confidence. And you look at some of the other, teams in the conference here, Donnie, a couple of question marks. You highlight the odds makers cannot quit the 49ers. San Fran there is the second choice at plus 400 if they can get healthy. I love your Eagles at 6-1. I think that's probably the price play for me. And the Packers and Vikings just a little vulnerable. But Donnie, what do you make of the chances here for Detroit? NFC North, it's certainly stacked. It's a loaded division, but they've got the quality, right?
It is. They do have the quality. They're 6-1. Also, you bring up a great point here because so many times we talk about, and if you just want to date the New England Patriots, didn't it feel like Dubsy for 15 straight years they were just the king of their division, which meant they went 5-1 at a minimum every year, maybe even 6-0. They always played home games, similar to what you see with the Kansas City Chiefs. Once you get to the playoffs, home field advantage is massive. Detroit in that dome, much better than, let's just say, Detroit going outdoors and playing in some cold weather conditions like in Philadelphia, or let's just say in Green Bay at that point. But I love everything about them. It's going to be interesting that we have the trade deadline next week. Their defense has been playing well, but they lost maybe their best overall player on the team itself with Aiden Hutchinson. The guy was an absolute menace this year. If they go out and make a move for a couple, or maybe just say one legitimate extra pass rusher, that could go the distance. But I've been stacking chips right now on the Detroit Lion Dubs. $25 here, $50 here, buying it, but not to win the championship, just in the NFC market, because I really believe they are the best overall team. The 49ers, they have so much talent, but can we trust them to be healthy when it matters at the end of the season? Christian McCaffrey is trying to come back. We get that. And if he's anything near what we've seen over the past 2 years with the 49ers, that is going to be massive. But they lost Ayuk. I'm just not trusting them where we have so much in the FanDuel Sportsbook, other sportsbooks out here, continue to put them up at the top of the leaderboard. The Packers and the Eagles, I do believe they should be neck and neck. And yes, the Eagles have a slight advantage now at 6-1 as opposed to a 7-1 price. But after that, I'm really not buying too many football teams. The Falcons will probably win the NFC South. That's fine. I don't think they're doing any damage. The Cowboys, come on now, 24-1, not even enough to buy into. Maybe one of the more intriguing teams to me is not the Commanders at 12-1, Dubsy. It's the Los Angeles Rams at 32-1, getting healthy at the right time here. And the fact of the matter is, they can win that division out there, which gives them an automatic home game in the playoffs.
I thought you were going to say the Rams. I was hoping you were going to say the Rams. Taking a look at the West, it's nothing but parity. We've got 3 teams with the 4 wins, the Cards, 49ers, and Seattle. And the Rams just 1 win back, and they've got a really good chance in going against Seattle here for Week 9. You look at the offensive weapons and star power. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in the game, Matty Stafford, when he's cooking, when he's healthy. You've got Puka Nacua, who suddenly came back. I had no idea he was ready to join the team or get back out there in the field. We saw him out there for Week 8 last week, and he was absolutely balling out. You've got Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams, who continues to impress. I would make the argument that he's up there with Todd Gurley. I don't know if he's doing more than Todd Gurley and how good he was for the Rams going a handful of years ago, but they've got the offensive firepower. They can score in bunches, and just one win back of sitting up top of the division. That's a monster price play coming out of the NFC there, Donnie.
I like Kelly Green a lot with the Philadelphia Eagles, but I like money green sometimes even better. It's the Lions for me in the NFC. MVP? Who wins that? We're going to talk about that right up next.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallize Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
MVP. You'll hear that chanted quite a bit. And by the way, Dubsy, in the MVP market in the NFL, it's getting red hot because just last week it felt like, it's Lamar Jackson. He's going to win this easily here. 5-touchdown performance, looked absolutely sensational, only to get beat by the Cleveland Browns, and it wasn't his fault. But look at the odds market as it sits today. The new leader in the clubhouse, Josh Allen, at a plus 270 price as the favorite. Lamar Jackson now at a plus 370 price. Patrick Mahomes at a 5-1. Let's start 1, 2, 3, because all three of these players all ready to start this season have been the leader in the clubhouse. Mahomes, Jackson, and Allen. Today, if you had to hand that award out on the stage, Dubs, who is getting your award for MVP so far of the NFL season?
I'd hand it out to Lamar Jackson, but there'd be a caveat, there'd be an asterisk saying that there's too much football to be played, and he's got another MVP caliber player playing right alongside him, Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry continues to have one of the best seasons we've seen at the running back position, that's going to hurt the stock for Lamar Jackson at plus 370, and I think that's the way it will play out the further we get into this year. For me, if I were to put this award on a pedestal, once it's all said and done, looking into the future, and that's what we're trying to do, prognosticate and handicap here, I think it will be Josh Allen. I love the Bills. I think they're built for success. He's put up some fantastic numbers to start the year. Not electric numbers, but he's been playing very efficient football, and I love the fact that he's got the turnovers and the interceptions out of his game. He's playing with maturity. He's using the wheels and the feet only when he has to. And suddenly he's got all these wide receivers who are buying in, getting it downfield, and not having that genuine one knockout punch. So I think this offense looks fantastic, much part in thanks to Josh Allen. And it's a war, Donnie, that's obviously dominated by that quarterback position. But I look at it and say, what is this quarterback bringing to the table? What would this offense and team look like if you were to take this superstar out and just put, I hate to be that guy, but a Joe Flacco or a Richardson in that starting position? How much would they lose? And I think for the Bills, they'd lose everything. Josh Allen is that cornerstone. You look at a team like the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Would they really lose a lot not having him? Yes, but they'd still be the Baltimore Ravens, and they'd still have one of the best rosters on paper. So Josh Allen is going to win it once it's all said and done. If it was handed out going into Week 9, Lamar Jackson. It's a Switzerland answer, Donnie.
By the way, you look at Major League Baseball, Dubs, right? You have 162 games to separate yourself. You take a look at, let's just say, the MVP in basketball, 82 games to separate yourself. In the NFL, you only have 17 games, which is why on a week-to-week basis, we get so much turmoil here. One bad performance by Josh Allen, he's out of there. One loss to a team you weren't supposed to lose to for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson drops down. Patrick Mahomes' team hasn't lost a football game, but he certainly hasn't been the catalyst, per se, for that team, but he sits at 5-1. So I love to see how, it's, on a day-to-day basis, this changes here. But the guys on the outside looking in, let's go 6-1 and a little bit higher. Jared Goff has been awesome for Detroit so far. He didn't even throw for 100 yards over the weekend. They put up 50-plus points, which shows you the talent on that football team. Jaden Daniels now rocketing up that leaderboard to 9-1 price here for Washington after that late Hail Mary pushed them through, where they might actually be the best team in the NFC East. C.J. Stroud, 13-1, loses another weapon at the wide receiver position. So many good players, even outside of Allen, Jackson, and Mahomes. If we looked at that second level, whether it's Goff, Daniels, Stroud, Hurts, Purdy, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, who would get your attention there to try to crack into that top three eventually?
It'd be the Cali kid, Detroit Lions, star quarterback Jared Goff. I think he's looked fantastic. You look at his passer rating. QBR was down substantially last week, but he's been playing some fantastic football. He's showing genuine leadership. He's putting up the numbers and the stats to support it. Not that it's an award just primarily based on the metrics, but I think Detroit Lions, they're having another fantastic season, much part in thanks to Big Bad Jared Goff, who's playing some of his best football. I would say career best season. If they can continue to pick up the W's, that's the outlier for me. Not a knock against Jaden Daniels, but I just don't think they can keep up. I think they've overachieved at this point of the season. C.J. Stroud, he loses his number one, one of his top two primary targets there with Diggs. And for Jordan Love and the Packers, injury's the biggest concern. It's a long season. Jordan Love, he started off up against it. It doesn't look like it's getting any easier, and you certainly need the game time and the reps. So Jared Goff as the price play for me, Donnie.
You know, you take a look at some of the other guys, right? And again, you have to have people there on the leaderboard. I understand that. Like Jalen Hurts rushes for 3 touchdowns on Sunday, 1 passing touchdown. If the Eagles play good football the rest of the way, sure, he's going to get looks, and understandably, if he puts up those numbers. Brock Purdy, 22-1, not really having a great season, didn't play all that well the past couple weeks. We'll see where he goes. But Joe Burrow, 22-1 also. 500 around that record, 22-1 seems like a little bit of a mispriced number. Down the leaderboard chances, and I always try to take a look at guys like Derrick Henry at a 60-1 price. It's so hard for running backs to win it because you probably have to set the all-time rushing record, including either A, touchdowns, or B, rushing yards to try to get up into that equation. Sam Darnold at 33-1. Like Sam Darnold's 33-1. Derrick Henry is 60-1. It just doesn't seem right at this point. Justin Herbert, more of a ball control offense now, 80-1 price. Geno Smith even thrown in there at 100-1. So it just feels like, Dubsy, like that top 5 to top 6 to top 7 really looks like they're the only chances we have to win. Or is there somebody way down that leaderboard that you're taking a look at?
Donnie, the only name that stands out to me is for the Bengals here. Big Bad Joey Burrow, when he hasn't got the peroxide of doing the fashion shows of the offseason, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but he's banking on the Bengals making a bit of a run. Now they're going to have a good chance to do so. They've got the Raiders on deck. It's the Ravens, Chargers, Steelers, but he's going to have to put up massive numbers. We're talking 2-3 passing touchdowns a game, north of 300, 350 yards, and trying to get those style points, that wow factor. And if you like that, you've got to like the Bengals to chalk up a couple of W's and maybe be that team who could make that wild ride out of the AFC. So that's the outlier for me. We know what Joey Burrow is certainly capable of. He's got the pieces and the weapons around him if they can just get it moving in the right direction. He's at 22-1 plus 2,200 for a very good reason. But if you're a bettor who likes Cincy turning around, you got to think it's going to be thanks to Joe Burrow. That's the outlier for me, Donnie, but I'm not completely sold. So maybe a little sprinkle, little pizza money play if you will.
Yeah, Josh Allen deserved to be the plus 270 price at the top of that leaderboard. We understand that. Quarterbacks are always going to be up high. Jared Goff is an interesting one, but they have so many talented running backs in that backfield that take away from the touchdowns because sometimes at the end of the season, Dubs, we're looking at wins and your football team, and then we go right to the statistics and say, hey, equal amount of wins. This guy threw for 41 touchdowns. This guy for 37. The guy with 41 is going to get that extra bump. Interesting ones maybe a little bit farther down, like the Matthew Staffords of the world at 120 to 1, because you're looking for what I always like to call, Dubsy, the extra credit, right? If you say to yourself, hey, the Rams look like they might have been one of those teams that are going to blow up their entire team, caught fire by the end of the season, winning the NFC West, and Matthew Stafford certainly is going to be a big part of that. That's one thing I do take a look at. Saquon Barkley with the Eagles, he's been tremendous, but he doesn't get enough touchdowns here. Every 1 or 2 yard run, which should go to him, goes to Jalen Hurts. Aaron Rodgers at 250 to 1. Now, that would be hilarious if they turned around, and because it was Aaron Rodgers, I just don't know if he would get enough media hype from me. So, Josh Allen, I do think he should be in the lead. Jared Goff for me is one to watch out for. And way down the leaderboard, Matthew Stafford for me at 120 to 1 price, Dubs.
Donnie, I love the price. I feel like you're buying in on the West Coast. Represent the Rams and Matty Stafford. And, you know, you look at a team like, say Joey Burrow or CJ Stroud, they're substantially going to have to do a lot more for their teams with less weapons. Matty Stafford's got some of the best weapons to work with for any quarterback in the league, which is going to give him that ability week in, week out. Doesn't matter who they're playing against, to stuff the stat sheet. If the defensive side of the ball can lock things down, they're going to put up 28, 35 points week in, week out and make a bit of a run towards the playoffs. We saw it at the back end of last year. When you've got Puka, Kyron, and Cooper Kupp at full health, watch out, especially if they're playing at SoFi on a fast track. They can put up points with the very best of them, and Matty Stafford, the stats are going to look very favorable as long as he doesn't turn that ball over.
They call Scranton the Electric City. Maybe that new Electric City is Washington, D.C. with Jaden Daniels, 9 to 1 price to win MVP, not Rookie of the Year. That's crazy. More talk next. Buy or sell.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Our focus, the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? They have Andy Reid. Why? They have Patrick Mahomes. Why? They have multiple Super Bowls under their belt. And also, Dubsy, they are a perfect 7-0 on the season. So let's take a look at Kansas City as a whole right now. 7-0, and you might think like, wow, what are they dropping? 40 points a game here, Patrick Mahomes, and that high-octane offense? No, not necessarily. 24.7 points, which is okay. Giving up under 20 points, which is fantastic. If you look at this football team as a whole, let's just take a look now, Dubsy. Are you impressed with so far what the Kansas City Chiefs have done on the season?
Absolutely. They're not picking up any style points, Donnie, but the only statistic that matters is the win-loss, perfect, undefeated record. Nothing gets easier in search of a third consecutive Lombardi. I guess it's the intangibles that stand out for me. They continue to find ways to get those wins on Sunday afternoon. They've got some of the best minds in the business, Andy Reid, Spags, Patrick Mahomes, and they're a tough out. They can do it in a multitude of different ways. They continue to play with injuries. They're banged up, but Patrick Mahomes, I don't think we put enough credit on the star quarterback, just trying to get them downfield and get them back into the winners. So, yeah, very impressed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Haven't looked the prettiest or the flashiest, but that doesn't matter. It's working.
No, it certainly is working. Let's take a look at what they've done so far in those 7 games. Beat the Ravens 27-20. That was a late game toe out of bounds by a tight end, which could have led to a 2-point conversion and a victory for the Ravens, but it didn't. The Bengals, late in that game, that pass interference call, they win by 1 point. You see the Falcons game, 22-17, close game. Chargers, 17-10, close game. Handled the Saints by 2 touchdowns, but then you had that game against the 49ers, win by double digits, and then technically a close game with the Raiders by 7 points. So here's what we're building up to, Dubsy. That's a 7-0 record to start the season. Not since the 1972 Miami Dolphins as a team cruised through the regular season unbeaten. And that 72 Dolphins team also ended up winning the Super Bowl. So buy or sell, the Kansas City Chiefs can go undefeated this season.
Sell. The Kansas City Chiefs are not going through the regular season undefeated. It's not a thing. It's not possible. They don't have the horses. They don't have the cattle. I love Patty Mahomes, but I don't love him that much. I don't think they go through another round, another week of being undefeated. I think the buck stops with Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield in the Bucs. That's where I'm going with this one, Donnie.
What?
It's too tough. There's too much parity in the NFL. I know they've got this perfect record thus far, but they're just doing it in a dogfight, in an arm wrestle style of way. I don't think that's going to be enough for them in trying to go up against some of these spirited, motivated teams with a bit more juice on the line. It's worked out in favor. They're going to be there. They're going to be there once it's all said and done at the big dance. But I think a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are getting set for Monday Night Football, this is where the loss comes, when you cannot run with that track meet. A team that's put up over 110 points in the last 3 weeks, Donnie. This is the cause for concern for me, so I'm selling it. What about you, Donnie? Buy or sell that the Chiefs continue this undefeated run?
It's got to be a wacky morning for Dubsy over there, because they absolutely, Dubsy, are going to beat the Buccaneers at home. If you told me Mike Evans and Godwin were going to play in this football game, I'd have given it to you. But since they're not, no shot for me. Now, they are going to get a push from the Broncos, but I do still think, if we're looking at the remaining parts of that schedule, that's 2 wins for me. At the Buffalo Bills is a tough spot here. You keep with Panthers, Raiders, nope. Chargers at home, nope. Browns on the road, nope. Texans at home, nope, don't think so. At the Steelers. So if I'm looking at 2 really trouble spots here for the Kansas City Chiefs, that would be at the Bills and then at the Steelers. Now, also keep in mind, final game of the season, at the Broncos, 2 things could go wrong, because this is going to bring up the next part of this equation. The Denver Broncos, to me, look like they're going to play for a wild card spot the rest of the way out, the way they're playing now, the way their record is. So there is a chance that game the Broncos have at home in Week 18 of the season, where the Kansas City Chiefs might have everything wrapped up. So here's another part of this buy or sell question. If the Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated all the way through, let's just say Week 16, which means you have 2 games left, the Steelers and the Broncos both on the road, but they already have wrapped up the number 1 overall seed, does Andy Reid owe it to the Kansas City Chiefs to let them try to go for an undefeated season, or does it only matter if they get the Super Bowl win?
No, I think you do. And at this point, you've already rattled up 2 Super Bowls the last 2 years. A 3rd consecutive hat trick would be nice, but it really would be a special feat. And I believe that playing in the NFL is only getting tougher and tougher. Every team is getting better and better. Every young quarterback is having more success earlier in their careers, which makes it even tougher to win, let alone stay undefeated throughout the whole regular season. So yes, absolutely, Andy Reid would owe it not only to his players and staff and personnel, but to all of us as fans of this great game. You want to see something like that, which may be the last chance we see, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, maybe ever. So absolutely, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they get through this week, Donnie. I've said it. There's something about the intangibles that's hard to quantify for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Call it championship experience, pedigree, DNA. It's working for him, but I just think they're going to get caught in a little look-ahead spot. At times, they struggle to put up those points, and maybe that's why the stat sheet hasn't looked so glamorous for Patty Mahomes, but it would be fantastic stuff, Donnie. And how can we say that it's not going to happen? Because they continue to make us look silly. When you write them off and say it's impossible, voila, second Super Bowl, let's make it 3.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we had that undefeated regular season, which the Patriots had. And quite frankly, they were like a buzzsaw through the NFL. Not really that case here with Kansas City, but a win is a win. And every win that they pick up, more pressure mounts on them to go for it. I do believe that is right. Andy Reid in the past, look, if you're not undefeated, he's always rested his players late when the games are meaningless, as opposed to getting his team injured, just trying to say, hey, we got to stay sharp here. But I do think he owes it also in his career. If he never won a Super Bowl, maybe his outlook is a little bit different. But you're also talking about a three-peat for the Kansas City Chiefs to cap it off with an unbeaten regular season. That would go down as maybe the biggest and best dynasty we've ever seen in the NFL if that feat can be pulled off. That's what they'll be playing for. But as we pointed out, at the Bills is going to be an extremely tough game, and then back-to-back games on the road at the end of the season. The Steelers will be playing for something at that point, or at least we anticipate, and maybe even the Denver Broncos. Certainly something to keep an eye on there. I'm excited to see what we get out of the Chiefs, and can they continue this win streak here? Can Patrick Mahomes win an MVP, win another Super Bowl? It's all going to be in the cards if they continue to stay healthy and play well. More talk coming up next. More buy or sell. College football edition? Absolutely. Right here on the Early Line.
That kid on the two-point conversion play was wide open on the right side of the end zone, and the kid threw it about 15 rows over his head.
People crystallized Georgia and Alabama. They put them on the shelf above everyone else, and they're just not there this year. I thought the kid Beck was great on Saturday, but they barely beat Mississippi State, who is porous.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Dubsy, we've talked so much NFL action. We've covered every single angle. You want to win the Super Bowl? We're going to tell you who's going to do that. You want to win the NFC, the AFC? You want to win the MVP in the NFL? We got you covered on every different list. But college football has one of the biggest awards in sports. It's called the Heisman Trophy here. Let's take a look here at the odds market here at the FanDuel Sportsbook for the winners and maybe losers of that Heisman Trophy coming down the stretch. Travis Hunter, Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Ashton Jeanty, Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, all in that mold. So my question to you is, buy or sell, Travis Hunter should be the runaway favorite for the Heisman Trophy that he currently leads in the odds market now.
Sell. I mean, what style points is Travis Hunter picking up? Wearing the Rolex or driving the Rolls Royce into the stadium there for the Buffaloes. I'm not going to take away the two-way superstar, what we saw last weekend, truly special stuff. And to get it done on both sides of the ball, take a look at this. 60 receptions, 757 receiving yards. He's got the 8 tutties, and he's getting it done on the defensive side with the 2 interceptions. It really was a remarkable performance last out going against Cincinnati, but it's going to come down to the strength of schedule and the pedigree and some of these other cupcakes that he continues to wow against. So I don't think Travis Hunter should be a runaway standout in the Heisman conversation. And the odds makers are telling us that, Donnie. They're putting it at plus 200. They're saying, hey, we haven't seen enough. We don't know. Ashton Jeanty, he's probably facing the same uphill battle. But Dylan Gabriel, for me, he's got to be the standout at plus 250. I mean, the fantastic quarterback play off the back of a winning record going against some of the best teams in college football. What else do we want to see? We know it's always going to be dominated by the quarterback position. But for me, once it's all said and done, there's too many question marks on that schedule for the Buffaloes. It's not a knock against Travis Hunter. It's just a knock against who he is doing it against. And I think Dylan Gabriel certainly looks to be the class out of the favorites for me. So it's a sell. What about you, Donnie? Buy or sell that Travis Hunter has done enough to be a standout in the Heisman conversation?
It's almost like a double-sided attack. If I look at it right now, I probably would sell it. But if you look at the Colorado Buffaloes, and rightfully so, like the Pac-12, which I never liked as a conference, but usually had those 3 or 4 like bell cow teams that would really put on a show. You get out of that conference, you go to the Big 12, which I think flat out stinks from top to bottom. Play one ranked team, which you lost to, which is Kansas State. But then you have Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State coming up. Nobody is ranked there. Could they showcase him on offense and defense to sort of give him that little bump? You know Deion Sanders is going to put him in the right position to do that. So I do think they're looking out for him. Now, the reason why I do bring that up is if you're looking at the rest of the guys, Dylan Gabriel is a fantastic quarterback. He's plus 250 to win the Heisman, and that makes sense. They run the table undefeated. He's putting up monster numbers. I do actually think he ends up winning it here. Cam Ward is an interesting one at a 3-1 price. He's been nothing short of sensational for Miami in a comeback season for the Hurricanes where they're now relevant on a national basis, and love to see that. But he hasn't had very many Heisman moments. He's thrown a ton of yards. He caught a touchdown pass this week, which is great. But where is that big football game where you knock off a top 5 opponent? Maybe that comes against Cade Klubnik and Clemson here. But now you take a look at Ashton Jeanty for Boise State. So many yards, so many touchdowns, by far the best running back in the country. But as I just told you, Dubsy, Travis Hunter in Colorado, Deion's going to put him in every single spot he can be to help win that Heisman. My question is, the coach of Boise State going to put Jeanty in enough positions for him to win the Heisman? Early in the season, pulled out of games early, chance to run some of those numbers up the flagpole, didn't do that. He should be at plus 450 at least a plus 250 or higher number, but he just doesn't have those statistics which wow you in some of those games. Donnie, what are you crazy? Look at all the 200-yard games he has. If you put a 400-yard game in there with 5 or 6 touchdowns, he'd be the leader right now. I think Deion is going to give his kid the rightful push to win it. How about that, Dubs?
Oh, putting Travis Hunter right in the mix. I tell you what, when you're playing both sides of the ball, you're always going to have a very good shot, a very good opportunity of doing so. So it's a good argument you make there, Donnie. I think this market is still wide open. We've got a handful of games remaining in the regular season. For me, I leant towards Gabriel just going off that schedule. I think he picked up a lot of style points going against Ohio State. He gets a chance to go in and rock the big house coming up for Week 10 in college football this weekend. So I just think Dillon Gabriel, polished, professional, and if he can take him to the promised land and remain undefeated in the Big Ten, I think maybe that's just going to count for a little more than the old style points that the Buffalo boys are picking up, driving in their flashy cars and playing their boom boxes out there on a Saturday afternoon.
By the way, Genti, the rest of the way, San Diego State, Nevada, San Jose State, Wyoming, and Oregon State. There is a chance that he should be able to rush for at least 200 yards in every one of those games. And could he win the Heisman? Fun as it comes down the stretch, no doubt about it. Hour number 2 is up next. Save the public. Where are we going here? Find out.